Today I'll be reviewing Boruto Chapter 44, Amado. Just to start off, I think this chapter was pretty good despite not having any action, or I guess not a lot of action so far, because we did technically get the training and Moegi trapping Amado at the end, but I don't know how much you count that as action. But this was a great chapter. To me, it felt like an end of an arc chapter at first, and then it somewhat transitioned into a calm before the storm, and then the revelation at the end changed that, and that was pretty much a triggering point, or what could be a triggering point for the next arc, or I guess maybe just the end of this arc. There are a few things I want to talk about, like Boruto, or I guess them somewhat confirming Boruto having the Byakugan, which I talked about in my last review and discussion video, the return of Naruto and Sasuke, and Amado defecting to the Leaf, which was obviously the highlight of this chapter. So the chapter starts off with Naruto waking up, which took me off guard somewhat because we didn't see them teleport back, or Sasuke take them back, or anything of the sort. We just see Naruto waking up in the hospital as if they could just if they could just walk or run there from wherever they were, even though they were in another dimension seemingly. And that kind of bothered me because, like I said in my previous review, it doesn't make any sense that Boruto and Kaoki can just manage space-time ninjutsu on their first try with no mistakes, and now they've seemingly done it again unless we get some confirmation that Sasuke brought them here, but we don't have that yet. And if Sasuke did bring them there, I have no problem with that whatsoever. So after that, we see Katatsuke mention that Kawaki's arm is having an adverse reaction to the chakra incompatibility. So I don't know if they brought this up before, or if it's just happening now, but it seems like Kawaki's arm isn't compatible with Naruto's chakra anymore for some reason. So Katasuke warns him that his body's physical functions will keep declining, but Kaoki says he's not worried because his body isn't made to die so easily. And we kinda knew this because when Kaoki was introduced, they said Jigen basically bought him from his dad and started experimenting on him and training him. And now that we know it's because Kaoki will eventually become a vessel. But during the experiments, we don't know if Kaoki's just been tortured or straight up experimented on. And I think because him saying that his body is made to not die so easily, I think that's the writer or Ikimoto telling us that yeah, Kaoki, he's been experimented on, he's been drugged, and he's basically been put through hell so that his body can do what it's doing now. And we've seen human experimentation in Naruto before, especially in part 1 with Orochimaru and then Yamato. But what they're doing to Kaoki is so different that even Katatsuke says he doesn't even know how to fix Kawaki's body. We also see Sumire return in this scene, and she tries to offer Kaoki the painkillers, but he's just like, no, I'm good. And I think Sumire, well, I would hope to see her play a bigger role in the future of Boruto, because she hasn't really done much in the series aside from the first 12 episodes of the anime. And then we've seen her talk with Sarada, but she hasn't played any major plot role, she hasn't had any plot significance in the manga so far. If they're gonna do anything with her, I think that she should be used to help Kaoki recover from his physical limitations, because it seems like they're somewhat nerfing him after giving him this problem with his body. So maybe she can be the one to help him with that since she's working with Katatsuke now. And her being here today could just be foreshadowing for that in the future. So moving on, later on we see Naruto talking to Shikamaru after he wakes up about how Team 7 completed their mission and defeated Boro. And Naruto is happy because I guess he's a proud father to them. And Shikamaru's like, this is no laughing matter because, Boro was a deadly threat. Jigen can come at any time. And Genin shouldn't be doing this. But Naruto's like, nah, it's good. Genin will be Genin. Because he'd pretty much be a hypocrite if he decided to talk and complain about them after he basically did the same thing all throughout part 1. I also want to talk about Shikamaru for a bit. In these 2 pages, or in the Boruto manga in general, I've noticed Shikamaru is way more stern. I'm not saying that he's more stern as opposed to any other source material, but Shikamaru has just grown to be more stern and serious. He's almost like a Danzo to the 3rd Hokage. But Shikamaru isn't a horrible person, so he isn't Danzo. He's just like the serious half of Naruto's Hokage position, which is also Sasuke, but Sasuke does things outside of the village. If you watch the last arc of Naruto Shippuden with Shikamaru, or which is based on the Shikamaru Shiden novel, you learn a lot about Shikamaru and what led him to this point, and I think it's all interesting that we can see it all in Boruto. One thing I want to say real quick is that this chapter is pretty long because that's only like the first 6 pages, and that's like enough content for one chapter, which is what we usually get, and that's probably due to Ikemoto actually using more panels than just 3 a page, which I really enjoyed. That was probably the first thing I noticed while I was reading this chapter, how many panels were used on each page, and how much dialogue was in the chapter in general. So anyways, after that we switch over to Kashin, Koji, and Amado prepping for what could be one of the biggest moments of this arc, and that's when they're trying to leave the Kara base. So Amado packs this wide case, which he says he only needs a section of fragment cells and digitized data aggregate for. So it seems like he's just packing a flash drive of data so that he can recreate everything when he gets to the leaf, because he says they'll have everything he needs there. And then Delta walks in and says, "What are they doing?" And that she's not gonna let them or that she's not gonna turn a blind eye to mutiny. And Kashin Koji steps down and says, "I'm taking her down." And Amado's just like, "Actually, there's no need to bother," and says, "Time to go to sleep, Delta," and knocks her out. And the first thing Kashin Koji says is, "That seems to be an emergency shutdown code. I suspect I've been programmed similarly." And the first thing that comes to mind is Koji, or not Koji, Amado could betray Koji later at any given point in time. And what I question is if the shutdown code is like permanent, like this, is he the switch for it? Is him talking the on or off switch for it? Or is it timed? Because if it's timed, Delta is just going to awaken later, presumably around the same time Jigen does. And if that happens, taking on Jigen and Delta at the same time for Naruto and Sasuke is going to be a problem. Both Naruto and Sasuke can individually defeat Delta alone, but they both had problems with Jigen, and if Jigen comes back after fighting Kashin Koji with Delta, I think it's still going to be a hard fight, even if Jigen is tired and he comes right after. And I think that's what they've been setting up throughout this chapter. We get a lot of time stuff, like Jigen's going to be out for X amount of time. Shikadai later in the chapter gets a bomb placed on him and says that Shikamaru needs to get here in a certain amount of time. And it's all time based, and I think when the clock runs out on all these clocks, or when time runs out for all these clocks, something's gonna happen. Which is another one of the reasons why I think this chapter could be a major triggering point for things that are gonna happen later on. So afterwards we see Sasuke talking to Sarada about Boruto, and Sarada tells him that Boruto grew a horn, his karma pattern was different than usual, and says that his right eye was a Byakugan. And I think this may pretty much confirm my theory and that I talked about in my discussion video, that it's actually the Byakugan and not the Jogan. I said in my discussion video that people assumed it was the Jogan because Boruto has the Jogan in the same exact eye, and they highlighted the fact that it might be the Jogan because they closed his other eye. But visually, it looks nothing like the Jogan. And if it was the Jogan, I'm pretty sure Sarada would have noticed because she was able to highlight the fact that the karma pattern looked different than usual, and she's not as used to the karma as she is the Byakugan. So if it was a different Byakugan, I'm sure Sarada would have highlighted that too, because she's definitely seen the Byakugan way more than she's seen the Jogan. So if she was able to tell, it doesn't make sense that she'd be able to tell the difference between the karma pattern, a difference between the karma patterns, and not the difference between the Byakugan. After that, she talks about how Boruto took down the enemy in a flash. Even though they all couldn't do it together, he somehow had enough power to do it alone. And she said it was as if it wasn't Boruto. And Sasuke basically finishes her sentence by saying Ototsuki. And they're all just confused. And Sasuke says he looked like one of them, right? Which makes Sarada worry about what, and she asks what's going on with Boruto, if he's going to be alright. And Sakura's just like, how about you just rest for now? And so after that, we see Mitsuki actually go to talk to Sasuke. And Mitsuki says that as someone who watches Boruto a lot, a stalker, he basically says that what's going on isn't normal. And he tells Sasuke that Boro said that Boruto is Momoshiki's vessel. And so basically, what's going on right now is that Sasuke and Mitsuki are putting together clues that we as the audience have more than likely already put together because we've already had this information. So Sasuke figures out, or he figures himself, that Momoshiki still exists inside Boruto's karma and is trying to take himself, or is trying to take Boruto over so that he can resurrect himself. And then Mitsuki talks about something very interesting. I guess I've talked about this before too, but if Boruto is Momoshiki's vessel, then Kawaki is someone else's vessel. But then we also know that Jigen is someone else's vessel as well. We know Jigen is Ishiki's vessel, but who is Kawaki a vessel for is what we need to figure out right now. I assume that Jigen's body is basically dying, which is why he can only pull off that one fight. And so Kawaki's body is getting prepped for Ishiki to take over his next. And then we get to the second half of the chapter, and I say second half because the first 19 pages felt like it could have been a chapter on its own, and now we have the next set of pages. So in this half of the chapter is when the action really kicks in. The first half was story. I guess the second half is action. So we get Inoshikacho training, and then Amado walks in on him and asks for Shikadai's dad, Shikamaru. And what surprises me about Amado in this chapter in general is how much he knows. He knew that the Hidden Leaf would have the technology to help him with, I guess, the data he has on his giant flash drive. He knows about Inoshika-cho. I guess that's not too surprising since they're a legendary trio. But he also knew who Shikadai's dad was and who Shikadai was. So Shikadai and his squad try to capture him, but he uses some ninja tech to disable his jutsu and then messes with Shikadai's mind, I guess, and then disables his shadow paralysis jutsu. And then I guess he poisons him at one point, and that knocks him out. And while he's knocked out, he uses a drug on him. Or not a drug, he places a bomb on him. And while that's going on, Inojin calls Ino and says to put him, and then Amado commands that he put him in touch with Shikamaru right now. And while that's going on, Naruto gets back to the hospital where Kawaki is and says that he looks full of energy, or Kawaki says that Naruto looks fine. And then Naruto thanks them for rescuing him, and then Kawaki's like, I didn't do anything. It was all Sarda and Mitsuki. And Boruto's like, didn't I do something? He's like, no, you were trash the whole time. And I thought that was funny, but right after, Shikamaru says that we're going to have to add tighter guards around you because Jigen might show up at any time and only Naruto and Sasuke can protect you. And Kaoki's just like, sure. And then we see Boruto and Sumire with this worried look. And I'm not sure if they're staring at Kaoki or if Sumire's staring at Boruto. But one panel later, Shikamaru is contacted by Ino and tells him that there's an emergency situation going on, and that Amado of the car has basically invaded the Leaf. And I like how when we switch over to the next page, we see all the Jonin in front of Amado, as if they're actually about to fight him. We see Moegi, Sai, and then some other fodder. Does Konohamaru ever show up again in the Boruto manga? Just a question, though. Dude always talks about being the next Hokage, but I haven't seen him show up and do anything significant once throughout Boruto. I've seen him do more in Shippuden than in Boruto, and he's the sensei now. I mean, we get to see Moegi attempt to trap Amado, but we don't see Konohamaru at all. I don't know if he's still injured from the owl fight. I think that's when he went out, but that aside, let's get back to the chapter. So Moegi tries to trap him, and then Amado's like, "This ain't gonna work. You better just let me go." And he shows her that by placing one of his bombs, that the same kind that's on Chikadai, on a tree, and then blows it up by just thinking, without even moving. So if he's able to do that without moving, without even a hand sign, I think he's got whatever he's planning. I think he's got it locked in motion because he tells Sai that even if you kill me, well, I guess he says it wouldn't be a good idea to kill me, and then he tries to go and apologize, and while also telling Sai that his opinion doesn't matter. So then he gets put in contact with Shikamaru, and then Naruto and the others, and Amado says that he's happy that Naruto is back, because I guess that means his plan is actually going to work now, whatever it means, whatever he plans. And then says, let me get straight to the point. I, Amado, wish to defect to the Leaf, which was the line of the chapter. And in return, he offers intel on the Kara, the Ten Tails, the Ototsuki, and everything. This man is essentially offering answers to everything that we want to know in the series as of right now. And this was probably the ultimate cliffhanger. While I was reading the chapter, I was saying that I was getting a feeling that something was going to happen because we went into the calm before the storm kind of thing with Naruto recovering. Well, I guess that gives off more of the end of arc vibes, but I got those end of arc vibes and then the calm before the storm, and then bam, we get the revelation all in one chapter. And I'm not too sure what's going to happen next because they already accepted Kawaki, trusted him and let him join, kind of. Are they about to do the same thing for Amado, another Kara member? Because I don't think they're going to be that lucky. What are the chances that two Kara members come your way and they're willing to join you? Shikamaru still doesn't trust the one we have right now. So what are the chances that he's going to trust this one other dude? We don't even know how strong Amado is as fans. So I don't even think we can really trust him. We don't know if he's strong, weak, just a scientist. I have no idea what to think when it comes to him. He and Kashin Koji were planning something, and Kashin Koji seemingly wants to defeat Jigen, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's on our side. The thing about Amato is he's been calm the entire time. He hasn't stressed or anything at any given point in time that we've seen him in the manga at all. He comes back, he sees Jigen just back from fighting someone. He's like, oh, just hey. Kashin Koji walks in, he's like, hey, yep, so Jigen's resting over there. It seems like he just doesn't care, but he kind of has a plan too, or else why would he be doing all of this right now? He had a deal with Jigen so that he can see someone again, if I remember correctly. And now he has a deal with Kashin Koji, and now he's trying to strike a deal with Konoha. So I don't see what he's up to at all. The more I think about it, the more this was just an Amado chapter. I guess the title of the chapter was Amado, and we got plenty of it this chapter. I mean, something that really showed in this chapter was Amado's intelligence. He knew about literally everything. When we go to the beginning of the chapter, he knew that he'd be able to get all his stuff back as soon as he got to the leaf with his giant flash drive or whatever. He also knew about the Inashika Cho. He knew who Shikadai was and his dad, Shikamaru. And then he even knew who Muwegi was, her full name, which is probably the first time we heard it in the series. Like, I didn't even know Muwegi had a family name or anything, but now we found it out, and we learned it from him, of all people. Then there's the fact that he could have control or voice control of nearly every member of the Kara because he was able to shut down Delta without lifting a finger, no chakra, no anything, just voice control, and it was shut down. And then he can voice control the bomb too, or at least thought control because he didn't say anything and then it blew up. So the more I think about it, the more I realize how dangerous Amado could possibly be. And this is also another reason the Leafs should consider adding him to their forces. I mean, it's going to be a pretty risky gamble, like what they did with Kawaki, but this could pay off in the end since he's offering intel on absolutely everything. The Kara, Jigen, the Ten Tails, and the Ototsuki. He says he will give us intel on everything. Now, the first thing that comes to mind is that Sasuke could just grab him, read his mind, and get all that anyway. But if he turns out to be like a cyborg of some sort, and Sasuke is unable to do any of that with his Sharingan, then he basically becomes a necessity to have in the leaf, or at least locked up within the leaf at all given times. But I definitely wouldn't trust him because if we go a few chapters back, we know he struck a deal with Jigen, and the writer hasn't given us any reason to believe that he would just betray Jigen. We don't know why he's betraying Jigen or defecting to the Leaf right now. We have no clue whatsoever or why he's leaving. So how are we supposed to trust him as readers from that perspective? I guess he's going to give a reason to Naruto in the next chapter, but we'll have no way to confirm or deny what he's saying because nothing's been shown. Unlike with what we've learned or what Sasuke and Mitsuki have put together in the chapter, we already knew that based on previous chapters, but whatever Amado is about to do, we have no idea, which makes whatever is going to happen next completely unpredictable. So, like I've been saying, I have no idea what to predict or speculate on for the next chapter. They're either gonna let him join or not. I think they have to bring him into the Leaf regardless of if they want to or not, because he's a member of the Kara. He's already proven that he knows way too much information to just let him walk away with. I don't think they'll kill him or fight him, but I think it's gonna be capture. It's without a doubt they're gonna be capturing him to me. They're gonna either keep him locked up and interrogated or just straight locked up, but either way I think they're gonna want the information from him because he knows way too much. If he can just say one thing or confirm Sasuke's suspicions on anything, he'll him coming here would have been worth it for them. But I don't know what he possibly wants from the Leaf when he seemingly already had to deal with Jigen. But that aside, let me know what you thought of this chapter in the comment section below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching, and bye. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching, and bye.